Welcome back to another story from the Old West. The kind that makes your heart beat a little faster. This one's about a quiet rancher named Eli Turner, a man who'd lived alone for 10 long years after losing his family to outlaws. He thought he'd seen every kind of danger the frontier could throw at him, until two mysterious Apache sisters showed up at his ranch one cold night, claiming they were lost and needed shelter. Eli let them in. He fed them, gave them blankets, but something about the way they looked at each other in silence, something about the way one of them whispered when she thought he wasn't listening. It didn't feel right. So that night, Eli decided to pretend to sleep. And when he did, he heard something that froze him to the bone. The wind howled against the wooden boards of Eli Turner's ranch house. The lanterns flickered weakly, throwing gold light over the rough floorboards. Out beyond the porch, the desert stretched wide and empty, its silence broken only by the whistle of dust against dry sage. Eli sat by the fire, staring into the flames when the knock came, 3 slow taps on the door. Not loud, careful, he frowned. Nobody knocked like that in the middle of nowhere. When he opened the door, 2 women stood there, wrapped in shawls made from deer hide, their faces streaked with dust. One was tall, dark eyes gleaming beneath long braids. The other looked younger, maybe 18, trembling in the cold. "We are lost," the older one said softly. "Our horses ran from the storm." Eli looked past them. No horses, no tracks. Only the storm tearing through the canyon. Still. He stepped aside. "Come in before you freeze." They entered slowly. The smell of smoke and wet leather filled the cabin. The younger one's eyes darted around the room, taking in every detail. The rifle above the fireplace, the axe by the door. The older one met Eli's gaze steadily, like she was studying him too. He poured them coffee, set bread on the table. They ate in silence. The older one thanked him in a whisper. "You are kind." Eli nodded but didn't smile. Something in their eyes made him uneasy. They weren't just travelers. They were waiting for something. When night fell, Eli offered them blankets and a spot by the fire. "Rest," he said. "We'll figure out the horses come sunrise." They lay down, but their whispers never stopped. A word here, a phrase there, in Apache tongue. Eli couldn't understand but the tone. It wasn't grief or fear. It was strategy. He leaned back on his cot and closed his eyes, pretending to drift off. But his hand rested quietly on the handle of his revolver. Then he heard it. The older one's voice, low and sharp. "He sleeps. At dawn, we take what's his. The others will come." Eli's breath froze in his chest. "The others." The younger one whispered something in protest. The elder silenced her with a hiss. Eli kept still, every muscle locked. The crackle of the fire was suddenly the only sound. He had let danger into his home, and now it was breathing softly in the dark, just a few feet away. Eli didn't move, didn't breathe too loud. The older Apache woman, he'd heard the younger call her Taya, sat upright now, watching the flames dance like she was reading something inside them. The younger one, Nara, stared at the floor, her fingers twisting the edge of her blanket. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving only the sound of the wind sighing through the pines. Taya leaned closer to her sister and whispered again. "He has food, water, guns. The men come at dawn. We take it, then go." Eli's stomach turned cold. He knew the tribes out here sometimes raided ranches, but this wasn't a raid. This was a setup. He'd taken them in, fed them. And now they were planning to rob him, or worse. The old floorboard creaked beneath his boot. Taya's head snapped toward him. Eli didn't flinch. He made his breathing deep and even, pretending to sleep. A long silence followed. Then, Taya exhaled slowly and turned away. The tension hung thick in the air. Eli's fingers brushed the grip of his revolver beneath his blanket. He could draw it in half a second if he had to, but one wrong move might set them off before he knew how many others were coming. He waited. The fire burned lower. Nara finally whispered, voice trembling. "Sister, he helped us." "Maybe we shouldn't." Taya's reply came hard as flint. "Kindness is weakness. He would not help us if he knew who we were." Eli's mind raced. Who they were. He'd heard of renegade Apache scouts, women who worked with outlaw bands, using pity to get close before a raid. Could they be? Hours passed before the sisters finally lay down again. Their breathing grew steady. Eli rose silently. His boots made no sound on the dirt floor. He slipped outside, his coat tight against the chill. The sky was pale with the coming dawn. He went straight to the barn and froze. There were tracks, dozens of them, fresh horse prints circling the property, just out of view from the cabin. They've already been here. He whispered. In the faint light, he saw something else. Marks on the fence, painted symbols in red clay. Apache signs. This place is claimed. His blood ran cold. He hurried back inside. The sisters were awake now. Nara's eyes widened when she saw him, but Taya stood tall, unafraid. You went outside, she said flatly. You heard? Eli's hand dropped to his revolver. I heard enough. Taya took a slow step forward. You think we came for your food? Your guns. She smiled faintly. No, we came because you killed our brother. The room went dead silent. Eli's grip tightened. You're wrong. Her eyes burned. He wore white man's clothes. Worked for you once? You let him die out here. Eli shook his head. If you mean Callan, your brother left. He took my horse, my rifle, and left me to die in the desert. Taya's jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, the fury in her face faltered, then hardened again. You lie. Outside in the growing dawn light, the sound of hooves began to echo through the canyon, slow, rhythmic. They were coming. Eli turned toward the window and saw the dust rising over the ridge. At least 20. Riders, he spun back to Taya. Call them off. Now, she stared at him, breathing hard. Then something strange happened. Nara stepped between them. Stop this, she cried. He's not the one. Callan died in the canyon. Taya, you know it. Taya's hand went to the knife at her belt. You don't speak for me. Nara's eyes were wide with fear, but her body didn't move. She stood firm, shielding Eli. The sound of the riders grew louder. The floor trembled. Eli's voice dropped low. If they reach that gate, there'll be no going back. Taya glared at him, torn between hate and doubt. Outside, shadows moved through the dust. Apache warriors on horseback circling the ranch. Eli stepped closer to the sisters. You can end this right now. Tell them the truth. Taya didn't answer. Her hand trembled on the knife. Then a shout came from outside, deep, commanding, echoing through the morning air. A man's voice. Taya, step aside. Eli's eyes widened. That voice. He knew it. The echo of that voice rolled across the valley like thunder. Deep, familiar. It didn't belong to a stranger. Eli stepped toward the door, revolver drawn. That can't be. Taya froze. Her knife slipped from her fingers, clattering against the floorboards. Nara looked from her sister to Eli. Confusion and fear etched on her face. Outside, the hooves slowed to a steady rhythm. The riders formed a half circle around the ranch. Apache warriors, faces painted black and red, rifles glinting in the dawn light. Dust hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. And at the center of them, a man dismounted. He wore a coat of dark buckskin, his long hair streaked with gray, his face weathered and scarred. His left arm hung stiff, as if once broken and never healed right. But his eyes, sharp, cold, alive, were unmistakable. Eli whispered almost to himself, Callan. The man looked straight at him. Didn't think I'd find you still breathing, old friend. Taya's head snapped up. Brother? Eli's heart hammered in his chest. You told them I killed you, Callan smirked. In a way you did. Left me for dead after the canyon fight. Remember? Eli's voice cracked with anger. You stole my horse, my gun. You left me with nothing but sand and sunburn. Callan shrugged. The desert takes what it wants. Then coldly, and today it wants you. Taya's face went pale. You lied to me? Callan turned toward her. I said the rancher betrayed me. That's true enough. He didn't pull the trigger, but he's the reason I spent 5 years fighting to survive. The reason I crawled back to the Apache. He lifted his chin toward Eli. We came for what's owed. Eli's jaw tightened. You brought an army for revenge? Callan's smirk faded. Not revenge, justice. He raised his hand. The warriors lifted their rifles. Nara gasped. No, brother, he helped us. He gave us food. Callan didn't even look at her. Stay back, Nara. You don't understand the blood between men like us. The first beam of sunlight broke over the ridge, glinting off the barrels aimed at the ranch. Eli could see it now. He had no chance against them. He could run, maybe get one good shot off before the rest tore him apart. But then he looked at Nara, standing between him and the door, trembling but refusing to move. Taya stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Brother, you dishonor our tribe with this." Cullen's eyes hardened. "And you dishonor our blood by siding with him." He motioned to the warriors. "Take her aside." 2 men rode forward. Taya drew her knife. Nara screamed, clutching her sister's arm. Chaos broke out. Horses rearing, shouts and Apache echoing through the air. Eli acted. He lunged forward, grabbing the rifle from above the fireplace, and fired a warning shot straight into the sky. The sound cracked through the morning silence like a whip. Everyone froze. "Enough!" Eli shouted. "You want me, Callan? You get me, but no one else dies for your pride." Callan stared at him, breathing hard, face twisted with fury, still trying to play the hero. Eli stepped out into the open, sunlight burning across his face. "No hero here. Just a man tired of being hunted by ghosts." The warriors parted as Callan walked forward, eyes locked on him. "You should have stayed buried," Eli muttered. Callan's hand hovered near his holster. "Maybe I did," Taya screamed. "Don't!" But both men moved at once, a flash of light, a deafening shot. Dust exploded around them. Callan staggered, then looked down. Blood bloomed across his chest. Eli lowered his smoking gun, hand trembling. Callan fell to his knees, eyes wide with disbelief. Nara rushed forward, catching him as he collapsed into the dust. Taya dropped beside her, tears streaking down her painted cheeks. Callan coughed, blood on his lips. "Maybe you were right, sister. Maybe he isn't the monster I thought." He turned his gaze to Eli. "Guess the desert didn't take you after all." Then his head went still. Silence. Only the wind moved. The warriors looked at their fallen leader, then at Taya. She stood slowly, eyes red, but her voice clear and strong. "There will be no more blood today." The men lowered their rifles. One by one they turned their horses and rode off into the golden light, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Eli stood motionless, the weight of it all pressing down like a mountain. Taya looked at him. "You have a choice now, rancher. Burn this place, or let it become something better." Then she turned away, leading her sister toward the rising sun. Eli watched them disappear, the desert wind carrying away the last echo of their voices. But deep inside, he knew. It wasn't over. Somewhere in the dust and heat of the frontier, every secret had a shadow, and his was still out there. The desert always remembers blood. Even when the wind buries it beneath miles of dust, the earth keeps count. That evening, as the sun bled across the horizon, Eli sat on the porch of his ranch. What was left of it? The wooden post still bore the splinter where Callan's bullet had hit. The silence was heavy, almost holy. He hadn't buried Callan right away. He just sat there for hours, watching the last of the Apache riders vanish into the west, leaving him with ghosts and questions. Finally, he rose, took a shovel, and walked toward the cottonwood tree near the creek. That was where Callan had once saved his life, 15 years ago when they were young men chasing the same dream: gold, freedom, and a patch of land to call their own. He dug until the moon climbed high. When the hole was done, he lowered Callan's body into the ground, covered it with earth, and pressed his hand to the dirt. "Guess we both made it out of that canyon after all," he murmured. The wind carried no answer, just the sound of crickets and the soft rustle of sagebrush. Eli walked back to the cabin, poured a drink, and tried not to think. But the quiet never stays quiet for long in the frontier. At first, it was just a shadow moving at the edge of the property, faint, quick. Then came the sound of hooves. Not many, maybe 3 or 4. Eli's hand went to his revolver. He stepped outside, boots crunching on the gravel. The night was still, silver under the moonlight. Then he saw her, Taya. She rode alone, her face hidden by a shawl. Behind her trailed 2 horses, one carrying Nara, asleep wrapped in a blanket. Eli frowned. "You shouldn't be here." Taya dismounted, her movements sharp and deliberate. "Nor should you still be breathing after what you did." He froze. Her tone was different, hard, almost cold. "You said there would be no more blood," he said quietly. She nodded. "That was before I saw what Callan carried with him." From her saddlebag, she pulled out a weathered pouch. She opened it, and gold coins spilled into her palm, gleaming in the moonlight. Eli's eyes narrowed. "That's from the canyon. The canyon you both swore you never found." Eli swallowed. He took the gold when I was shot. I thought he buried it out there somewhere. Taya stepped closer, eyes burning. He did, but not before writing your name in the ledger of those he betrayed to find it. Eli shook his head. That's not true. She held out a folded paper, cracked and stained. On it his name, written in Callan's jagged hand. Eli Graves, the one who left me for dead. Eli's breath caught. No, he lied to save himself. Maybe, Taya said softly. But the men who followed him believed it, and those men are not far behind me. Eli turned toward the horizon, and that's when he saw them. Lanterns, faint and flickering, moving across the ridge. Dozens of them, Apache? He asked. Taya shook her head. Worse, bounty riders. They think you have Callan's gold, and they'll burn this ranch to get it. Eli's stomach tightened. Then why come here? She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Because Nara begged me to. She said you wouldn't run. Eli gave a tired smile. She's right. Taya hesitated, then whispered. You could still leave. The canyon's open to the south. Take a horse, take the gold, vanish. He looked down at the pouch in her hand, then at the sleeping girl draped over the second horse. If I leave, they'll find her, you. Her jaw clenched. You can't win against them. He holstered his revolver. Doesn't matter. I've got one thing they don't, she frowned. What's that? Eli's eyes met hers. Nothing left to lose. By midnight, the wind had turned cold. The first shot came from the ridge, a warning crack that split the night in two. Eli ducked behind the trough, returning fire. Sparks lit the dry grass. Horses screamed in the distance. Taya grabbed her bow and moved silently between the shadows, her arrows whispering through the dark. 2 riders fell before they even reached the fence. Eli reloaded, heart pounding. Every flash of gunfire lit the faces of men, rough, scarred, desperate for gold. And then, the barn caught fire. Flames climbed fast, painting the night orange. Taya! Eli shouted, Get Nara out. But before she could answer, a bullet grazed her shoulder, spinning her to the ground. Eli ran to her, dragging her behind the wagon. Stay down. She gritted her teeth, pressing her hand against the wound. You can't stop them all. He glanced toward the burning barn, then back at her. Maybe not, but I can make sure they never find what they're looking for. He grabbed the gold pouch, hurled it straight into the fire. Taya gasped. Eli? The flames swallowed it whole. The coins melted, hissing like demons. The riders saw it too, their greed turning to rage. They charged the ranch from every side. Eli raised his rifle and fired until the chamber clicked empty. Smoke filled his lungs, his eyes stung, but he kept shooting, kept fighting, until one by one the riders fell or fled into the dark. Then, silence. Only the fire crackled, throwing long shadows over the ranch that had once been his whole world. Taya crawled toward him, blood on her arm, tears in her eyes. Eli, it's over. He looked at her, the warrior who had once come to kill him, now sitting beside him in the ruins of his home. He smiled faintly. No, it's just the desert doing what it always does. Taking back what we borrowed. She reached out, touched his face. You could have run. He shook his head. Not from this. The first light of dawn began to rise, painting the ashes gold. Nara stirred, stepping out of the cabin, eyes wide at the wreckage. Eli looked at them both. The only 2 people left in a world that had burned itself clean. He whispered, almost to himself. Maybe now. We can start over. Taya nodded, her voice soft. Or finally let it rest. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of smoke and sage. Somewhere far off, a coyote howled. The song of endings and beginnings. Eli stood hat in hand, watching the sunrise break over the desert. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone.